Hey, welcome back to Mind Your Biz. My name is Seth, and in today's Creator Highlight episode, I have the great pleasure, the exceeding joy to be joined by the one and only technologist, writer, contributor, advisor, consultant. You actually want her helping to architect some of your projects at very, very early phase, Brooke J Lacey. Brooke, welcome to Mind Your Biz.
That was the best intro. I've been introed a lot, and that one was the best. But I say that to everyone who interviewed me at the time. That one was the best. No, really. I love that. I think because we're both technologists, and I was like, he gets it.
Yeah, that's just it. There's a lot of people who come to you to try to solve problems, put out fires after the fact. And frankly, if they just got to you a little bit sooner, their product would just operate a little more smoothly.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
So just saying, she's the person you never knew you always wanted, running your shit from day one. So don't delay.
Thank you.
But here's the thing: we've had a chance to vibe and just hang out, really in a lot of places. I think both Miami and Austin. I think in LA as well, right?
Pasadena.
Right? Yeah, Pasadena. Well, and then across LA because it got boring. It got sleepy in Pasadena at around 9:30 p.m. Not gonna lie. So we got out of there.
True. Your wife and I danced quite a bit. I don't know if I can say that online, but we did dance.
Yeah, as long as you're not selling pictures of my wife dancing with you and against her knowledge. That's a topic for another time.
Another video of me dancing, and I think they caught like an image of her, but not like her face or anything. So I'm like, yeah, I have proof. I do, but
yeah. Fun times though. Here's the thing: IRL, like there's no replacement for displacement. They say, right, in auto circles, and it's true of just getting out there, displacing your own mass from your own freaking desk, and getting out in market and talking to people. So, yeah, huge fan. But Brooke, for the members of the Mind Your Biz audience who maybe don't know you, would you mind introducing yourself in a sort of Brooke in 30 seconds or Brooke in a nutshell type statement?
I did this the other day where I said I am a technologist first, I am a student second, and I am a content creator third, in that order. So I'm doing like a crazy person, went back to school for cybersecurity, and so now I am in graduate school studying a master's degree in cyber operations and resilience. And that just means that I don't have to do any pen testing or any of the like super technical, but I get to manage a team. So I'm a cybersecurity nut.
Got it. Okay. So we need to know definitively which one is the best. Is it red team? Is it blue team? There's only one right answer. Go.
I tend to like red team, I think, but I don't think it's like better or worse, but like, I feel like I could manage a red team better. So I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, fair enough. I think in our conversations, I believe that you're paranoid enough that you would do phenomenal on red team, but you would hold your own on blue team too, of course.
Yeah. And both are so necessary, and that you can't have them without each other. So like, that's the thing. But yeah, I definitely am very paranoid.
Well, let's get into that in just a minute here. And before we do, I would like to quickly have a word from our sponsor. It's actually by somebody who you might know, a guy who's super into AI, and he recently acquired a little platform called Twitter. But without further ado, word from our sponsor.
It must be your lucky day because I'm introducing brand new innovative technology to the virtual erotica marketplace. It's called ErotaLink, and it connects directly to your brainstem via a comfortable, lightweight headset. Watch me demonstrate the potential of ErotaLink as all of my fantasies spring to life in front of my eyes, completely indistinguishable from reality. Oh my, look at them prancing about. That frisky little brunette is rather naughty, isn't she? I bet she would like Daddy Elon to give her some discipline. Maybe a firm spanking. Oh yes, definitely. That would teach her the meaning of the word respect, I can assure you. So the next time you're feeling that old familiar itch, you should connect to ErotaLink. Our slogan is, your fantasies may not be real, but that explosion in your mind is, as well as the explosion in your pants. That's real too. Sorry about that, but it's part of the experience.
All right. So thank you so much to the ErotaLink for sponsoring this issue. Brooke, seriously, are you laughing at my sponsor right now?
No.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you. I can't believe you.
It was the greatest thing I've ever seen, to be honest. That's why I was just filled with joy. Filled with joy and explosions. That's what I was filled with.
Right. Yeah, the explosion in your mind is very real. So yeah, go ahead. I mean, I think they might be launching a token and an NFT. Just stay tuned.
Just
obviously hashtag not advice.
Yeah. To this address that we're going to post underneath.
Oh my gosh. It's a crazy landscape these days. Now that we've gone full degen, let me quickly just get that rolling. Yeah. Keep that rolling nonstop for the rest of the show. Seriously, Brooke.
The whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because it's also not cybersecurity advice. Like, I'm not telling you what to do with your technology. Like, we could go through all of the disclaimers, but the fact is, like, just be smart and paranoid. Yes. Don't listen to anything on the internet.
Yeah, no, definitely not advertisements for unreleased products. Just careful. We can sell you vaporware. The errata link, I assure you, is very real though. But
I think that's awesome. I'm sorry. The only laughing was that I wasn't expecting that. Like, it's so great. It's so great.
I think I played it too straight there afterwards. Like I kind of caught you. She's like, "Oh, wait, is it real? Are you really fundraising
ever?"
So this is the thing. This is the current absolute state of AI right now. So everything from the script to the voiceover to the emotion in the voiceover to the images, and maybe even the music. Probably not the editing and some of the last mile of creation there, but everything else can be completely AI generated now.
Yeah,
we live in a world where you almost can't trust your eyes, and you almost can't go anywhere or do anything without second guessing. Am I in touch with reality or am I being finessed?
Right.
Somehow.
Right.
So. Anyway, we'll talk about a little bit of paranoia in a minute here.
I have like perspectives on that as well. That like I don't think this is new. It's just in a new form. And just quick little story. There's a guy on Twitter who does these voices. One of which is Elon, and it is his voice, meaning it's his voice, but it's Elon. Like, people think it's Elon on an Anon account, and then all of a sudden he switches into another, voice. So like the idea of copying people's voices has been around since the dawn of time, right? Like, not only that, but like when I started on TikTok, I was doing these like quippy sort of one-liners, and people were then using my voice to lip sync to. And so all of a sudden it would come across the screen. I'd be like, whoa, that's my voice coming out of that person's face. So now it's just in a different form, but it's still like that particular thing was used for fun and content, but it was still falsifying that person's voice, right? It was like, that was technically my voice used for their content. I don't know. I just have this whole perception of AI is just it's just different, but it's still like, it's not new. Finessing people is not new.
not even a tiny bit new for sure. So let's
sure people know.
No, let's talk about that though, because I mean, you had a life before cryptocurrency, and everybody always asks, like, how did you find crypto? Please don't answer that question.
Okay,
what I'm genuinely asking you is just who the hell were you before crypto?
Yeah.
What did you do? Who was Brooke J Lacey in a pre sort of crypto exposure world? Like, where'd you go? What'd you like?
Know my story, and that story is fairly interesting. So I'm happy to talk about all of that. But the whole, like, how did you find crypto? For me is it's just slightly different than most people that are like, oh, I've been, I was just like collecting or accumulating crypto. But, I've been around a while on this earth. I know I look 20, but I've been in tech since the early 90s. I got a hold of so I'm not going to give you my whole life story, but it does start there. How many hours do we have? Are we doing it all day? This is an all day thing. Like my story, my love of technology started in the 90s when I had this after school job, and they like wheeled in this, giant beige box of, Windows 3.1. And I just was like enamored. And at that point, I was kind of on my own in life at 16 or 15 and had this, great job, and then went to high school, and it just spoke to me. So this like solitary, elegant, this code. I used to see in code as a kid, thought I was totally insane. So it really, technology saved my life. So I think maybe like me being very sort of spiritual, I do look at these things as, life changing. Maybe that's a girl thing. I don't know, but we do think of these things a little differently. So after high school, I wanted to just dive in. I went to college and studied computer science. Back then we were learning assembler code and what COBOL. People are like, what is this old lady talking about?
Well, hey, man, here's the thing. If you were learning COBOL and you decided to stay the track, as you know, I mean, you would have had a brilliant career, right?
Oh, yeah.
COBOL developers still make bank.
Oh, yeah.
Literally make banks.
Right. I think that like an interesting part of it was I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I have this superpower of understanding the super technical and the like personal business side of things. And so when I started working on the Y2K bug, that was when I realized, oh, this might not be what I thought it was going to be, because all I do all day is sit and change 2 digits to 4 all day long. And that like is fine for like my brain, like when I need to just sit and like focus and, coming out of like the childhood that I had, it really worked for me. But then over time I was like, nah. So
you were doing what today would be considered bulk data entry. It's not programming as such, right?
Right. Because I was an intern and I was like fresh out of college. So it was like, that's what they threw at us. And it was 1999. And I always tell the story, like, for those of you who don't remember Y2K, like it was like, they thought that all of a sudden the clock was going to strike midnight and like planes were going to fall out of the sky and like, like everything was going to blow up because the code was going to get all scrambled. And I remember being like, you guys are all idiots. Like, do you not know that like the tech world has known this is going to happen like for a while? And like all it's taking is some data entry. But thankfully airplanes stayed in the sky. Nothing blew up. So that was good. So after that, just like kind of was a little lost, to be honest. And I was kind of doing all different things, bartending and like, figuring things out for myself. And my 20s were wild. I grew up and partied in Chicago and then grew up some more and realized, all right, I'm good at tech support. I'm good at bridging that gap between the super technical and the business side. So I ended up being like a tech analyst when I moved to where I live now, a little bit of a smaller place than Chicago, substantially smaller. And I took on the role of a director of a 170 person help desk. And so I was very, very good at teaching these people the soft skills. And I would say I'm a master of soft skills. And that was a great like corporate career for me. It was there for 10 years. And got to the point where that particular company, which again, small area that I live in, there weren't really a ton of options, especially for a woman in tech, and making that much money. So I stayed longer than my psyche would have liked me to stay. And
that's a tough trap that a lot of people fall into, especially when you're dealing with technology. I've got a couple of brothers who do full stack development, and I'm not going to name names, right? But I've got one who sort of like did that sort of like job hopping every 18 months or so, and has kind of built up his earnings really well doing that.
Right.
But when you tell yourself like, nah, they're getting me ready to do management, and they keep telling me to stay, and there are these problems I got to solve here. You can very easily find yourself stuck at a job for 5 years, 6 years, and not getting ahead. So I've got a lot of empathy for that. I really do.
Yeah. And there were some people, so it was actually a grocery chain. I'm not that private where I can't say like, it was actually, Albertsons, if anybody knows Albertsons is, where that's based, no big deal. But they merged with a company and it was a terrible idea. And so all of a sudden we were at the brunt of it, but there were all these people that had been working at Albertsons for like 30 years. Like they were a cashier and moved all the way to tech support and they couldn't leave. Where were they going to go? 30 years on the job. They were like, but it was miserable, absolutely horrendously miserable for everybody. The morale was terrible. The stock price is tanking. We're all getting, like demotions, all that stuff. And I just remember I remember specifically, I have a son now who's an adult. And at the time I would pick him up from daycare, and he's the smartest, like most emotionally intelligent. And I remember vividly him sitting in the back in his car seat and being like, Mom, I don't think you're supposed to work there. Cause I would just be so frazzled. And we would drive up to the big house that I owned by myself, that I had built myself. I was a single mom from pregnancy, and I made a shitload of money, and none of it mattered. And he also said to me, and I may be like, thinking of it differently, but to the tune of, I would live in a cardboard box with you, Mom, if it was still you and me. And it was like, I don't care about this house. It doesn't hug me back. It isn't, like wiping my tears when I'm crying. And so that was a huge eye opener for me. And I started a business in 2010, doing computer repair on the side, and being that guy you called and so I was actually doing it while at work. Didn't quit my day job for 2 years. It was one of the most like freeing, even though I was working more, of course, but like my clients started being people I worked with in the like business side of things, not at the help desk. It's a big company. And so that was really cool to sort of prove my business concept, is that these people were paying me to fix their computer, do little consulting, like help them buy computers, very basic stuff, but I was doing it out of my house. And I got to the point in 2011, earlier 2012, that I either have to quit my job and do this full time, or I can't do it because it's too much. And so I got to make that decision. And I walked out of a very lucrative job, took out my savings, and thought, I can do this. I can self-fund this. I can do it all. And I started a computer repair shop, and it was hugely successful in terms of profitability right away. And then I got a shop, I had interns. And then I did get married in, we were together from 2008 until 2017, but he was my free technician. My ex-husband and I then started building Bitcoin mining computers. Here we go. So in 2008, when all the financial collapse was happening around us, we were fine because I had all this money, right? Like nobody was taking my house because I worked in tech, made a shitload of money. So we found, and this was my ex-husband and a couple of friends of ours, because my friend was dealing, he was a marijuana dealer, and we needed we were kind of helping. I will say that. I don't know what I can say on your show, but we were helping him. And he said, you guys, there's this thing called Bitcoin. Like, we got to figure this out. But in technology, we'd already known about digital cash, and like we'd already we knew about all this stuff, like just from research, from sort of tertiary, information. It wasn't like we were into it or anything, but financial collapse, the white paper and blockchain and Bitcoin came around, and we're like, oh, that's cool. But when it came to this business that we were kind of a part of and making a little money on the side, also consuming that particular thing, we found Silk Road. And my friend was like, this is it. This is how we're going to drop ship. And so we built all these machines. They were not giant rigs in warehouses. People think that that's today. Back then, it was literally, we didn't even use graphics cards.
Oh, yeah. You did in the Neptune miner and all the other first generation ASICs and stuff. They were not even, there was 18 months out, right? 2 years out.
Right.
So
it was, it's far out. So we had those in the basement, paid a bunch of electricity. We were not mining for generational wealth. And I will tell you this right now, if anyone tells you that they were mining Bitcoin for generational wealth in 2011, they are lying to you. Or they found a hard drive in their mom's basement 2 years ago, and they're like, oh yeah, we were doing this in 2011, and I knew it was going to no, you didn't. If I knew that we would have been saving it. So
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you there when I hear people say like, I was so early to the game and I was mining and getting full 50 Bitcoin blocks and I just saved all of it. It's like,
Nope.
dude,
No, you
nobody
didn't.
did that.
No.
Yeah,
100%
nobody's serious.
no.
There are a handful of people who did that seriously. You're not one of them. And if you say that you are, just sign a transaction with a private key. We'll believe you.
Right.
Just sign a message with a private key.
Right.
We'll believe you. No problem at all. Like there's a way to prove that.
Right. And I've been put in that situation before too. And I'm like, there's a difference. I don't give a shit whether you believe me or not. I don't care. You know, like that's a privacy thing for me because there is still some left. And they're on a Trezor. They went from a Platter hard drive to a Trezor. It's in the safe. I have a legal agreement with my ex-husband. I don't talk about this very often because I did sort of promise him that we would keep it quiet. But it's sort of like, yeah, but we're good. You know, I think the point is knowing what it was used for, regardless of the transactions and the things we were buying and the way that we were buying it. It was revolutionary in such a way that like, because to be perfectly honest, people are going to buy that shit anyway. And like, obviously still, and now marijuana is legal in a lot of states. So it's like easier to talk about. But the fact is Silk Road was this perfect marketplace where you could see, it was like eBay, right? Instead of going and buying it off Facebook Marketplace. Oh, that does have reviews too. It's not the same as like going down to a flea market and you have no idea if this guy or girl has, you know, whatever they've done to it, the thing, I don't know, that's not a great analogy, but know what you're getting, the product is a certain way, you have reviews, it's a business. And it was brilliant, to be perfectly honest. So
yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, you're part of the Cypherpunk, I guess the second wave Cypherpunks that went in with incentives, right? And tried to test some of these theories with free market economics.
Right. And
I've got mad respect for that. It wasn't me. I mean, ideologically, it couldn't have been me at that time. Right. But I got crazy respect for that. If you know Nixops or some of the other people in the community, right, who are kind of from that era of adoption, Ken Bosak. Rice Crypto was not actively involved in that scene, but there's quite a bit that of like the well-known people in the space who I consider good faith actors who at that time were like, no, I'm just curious because I want to do this thing. I view it as morally fine. Yes. And legality isn't morality, right? So like, yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of with you.
That road as well. And I always kind of have to stop myself from going down the, like, why did we feel it was moral? Like, why, you know, like that whole thing. And like, oh, couldn't you buy this particular thing on Silk Road? Like, yeah, but you can also buy it with cash, you know, whatever. So again, that's a whole separate, like, is it moral? Like whatever that maybe we have show on that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I mean, I think even the FBI I think agrees with the two of us that only in this phase at this point, only a very foolish criminal would try to do something that's like extremely bad with Bitcoin on layer 1 without obfuscation technology. Like that's how you get caught. You're leaving them like you're leaving them breadcrumbs straight to you if you try to use these systems in the open, right, as public distributed ledger technology, and not using IP obfuscation, not using mixing, you know, all those other things. Even if you do use mixers, if you don't do it correctly, the blockchain remembers forever, so you can be discovered 3-5 years later.
Right.
So
and think about that 3 to 5 years later. 10 years ago, oh God, 12 years ago. When it very first started, that is not how it worked. It was like, because people were like, oh, when the FBI seized Silk Road, all of our Bitcoin was in, I think of Zoolander, right? Like the files are in the computer. You had to send your mined Bitcoin. Again, I'm also not an expert. I just remember how it worked, is that we had an account, and the account in Silk Road, that's where all the transaction happened. It wasn't this like, you know, exchange where, you know, you come in and then you exchange it for this or that. Like it was like there. And so when the FBI seized it, all of that got seized. So whenever, like a couple years ago or a year ago, I don't know, a month ago, all the time runs into each other in content creation. When FBI was like sending out all that like seized Bitcoin, I was tweeting out like, hey, is there like a form that I can fill out? Because some of that is mine. And everyone's like, oh, I bet you could. And I'm like, no, I'm joking. Like they seized our drug money. But like it broke the chain. So those are not retrievable. And then the ones we lost in Silk Road, and then we had another guy, trying to trade it. And we watched it literally go to zero. We're like, what are you doing? So I think in total, there was probably 2,500 in total with Silk Road, with Mt. Gox, with the guy trading and then losing hard drives and all of that, probably 2,500. And of course, everyone starts doing the math. And I'm like, please don't do the math, because it was 50 cents. They were worth
right.
50
Yeah.
cents. So
right. Yeah, no, I hear you there. And I mean, people who are from that era, people who are, that vintage of Bitcoiner or just like cryptocurrency user and advocate, they were very similar, right? It was used as cash. It was literally architected as peer-to-peer digital cash. So they just used as cash.
Right.
It's like you don't get upset that, like, what I wish my grandparents had done. I wish they had saved all those pre-1963 silver dimes. Man, what idiots. They didn't know that was generational wealth.
Right.
Dude, how are you going to know?
Exactly what I'm saying. Like, nobody was mining for generational wealth. If I was, like, this is what blows my mind, because I do think in binary. I really, really do. Like, if we had known, why the fuck would we have been doing like the other way? We would have been like hodling, like nobody thought that it would happen. No one in my lifetime. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny also. So I know a guy who, and he's public, right? But I know a guy who like very doxed, very open. He made a documentary about living on Bitcoin in 2013, right? With his, it's fun, right? So newlywed, he convinced his fiance to honeymoon and live for several months, like the opening months of their marriage, entirely on Bitcoin, and talking everybody that they knew into accepting Bitcoin for everything: groceries, gasoline, utilities, rent, and travel too. International travel. So they pushed to try to make Bitcoin into money in 2013. Now, you remember this from lived experience.
Yeah. How
easy would that have been to just convince everybody, like, you can take this. This is worth it. Yeah. This is safe.
Totally. Do you remember when, was it Occupy Wall Street or one of those? I should probably get the story right, but there were people walking around with flash drives with like 5 Bitcoin on it, handing them out like, this is the future. And people were like, what is this shit? And threw it away. And how would they have known? That was the thing. Like, like you said, my parents, they're actually my son's dad's parents, but they've adopted me in this new place that I live, and they are hoarders. I love them to death, but they sold the property, this giant property. They had all these outbuildings and lots of stuff. Wasn't a hoarder in the sense like it was actually just like stored there. It wasn't dirty. There was no like dead cats and stuff. So there are differences. More like collectors of a lot of stuff that probably isn't worth anything. But we did find an old Tandy laptop. And I told them, that's mine in the will. Thank you very much. And I think there was 2 of them actually. And some like old silver spoons and stuff. And I was like, what? But it's very rare that people, keep that stuff. And I guarantee they weren't keeping it because it was worth something. It was because they just wanted to keep stuff. And no idea like, oh, this is valuable or not, because it wouldn't be in a dirty box underneath 100 other things that we only discovered because they sold their 9 acres, of land. So,
jeez. Yeah. Holy cow. Okay, so that's kind of funny. I mean, it's funny because estate sales like that, like you're saying, those are the sorts of estate sales that I think will turn some unexpected people into Bitcoin millionaires at some point, or billionaires in the future, right? Where it's kind of like, oh my gosh, hard drives from between, say, 2009 to 2011 ish on old laptops, like you got to check it out. Interesting.
Have you done that?
Counterpoint story here. So I had somebody ask me to do a recovery job for them. and I did digital forensics for them.
Yeah.
I flew out to where they were, and I did so entirely at my own expense, right?
Yeah.
Which I will never do again. I'm just going to tell you, I'll never do it again. If so, for anybody in the audience, if you want me to do like a digital forensics for you, and you want me to try to do a recovery job, like you have to pay for my time and expenses up front, right? Yeah. And then just to manage the industry rate, the industry normal expectation is that anything recovered is minimum 15% of what's recovered, plus all forks, because the way it's done is if I find your original, if it's BIP 39, if I find your original BIP 39 seed phrase, if I find your original key pairs, then you can't know into the future that I won't have access to it. The game theory requires you, and the security requires you to view those addresses as burnt, right? Because I know them now. So when I discover those, I will then send you 85% to a freshly provisioned address, and then I get 15% plus all of the forks.
Right.
Sorry, not sorry. I'm not even gonna front. But 15% plus all the forks, that makes it worth my time. And then I can say the same for Brooke here, because she's got the skill set to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I did one of these jobs, right? And I flew out at my own expense, spent a week going through, first off, using Linux tools, right? So I just simple DD. Look, if you know it, you know, right? Yeah. Just DD. Yeah. Made a perfect bit for bit copy of all of the available hard drives onto newer media, so we didn't have a failure point and we had redundancy. Which is the first step, right? Like in terms of documenting everything. Thankfully we didn't have corruption, but they had all these hard drives from 2011. They're like, nah, man, I know that I was mining. Yeah. And it turns out this person was just a freaking drug addict that had a really bad memory. Specifically, they were on opioids, which really messes with the memory. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. And makes people really mean. Yeah. So like, so it's like I was visiting this person. They hosted me, but I was visiting this person that was like Jekyll and Hyde. It's like, okay, a couple of days, I'm like, all right, we'll get this thing done. And they say some snide comment. I'm like, dude, I don't know how much longer I'm going to feel safe on your property with you kind of doing this. Like this person could maybe do me physical harm. Right. And then tell a story about it later. Like, hey, Seth got aggressive. Like, no, I didn't, man. I'm here trying to help you. Right. So, but we found nothing. And then I finally, like, after pouring through all these hard drives and and doing essentially like onion peeling, right? Looking past rewrites on their hard drives and stuff. Yeah. Like going through and like onion skinning their hard drive to see where there were overwritten sectors on the hard drive. I told him, like, buddy, no, you contributed to a distributed compute project called Boink. Remember that one? Oh, like folding it home. You did Boink. You did a distributed compute science project. You never mined a single Bitcoin. Oh, you just wasted my time and my money because I funded myself coming out here. Right. So thanks, boss. I'm getting out of here. Wow, I forgot about that. This person did too, but they were convinced in the back of their mind. They're like, nah, man, I know I mined at least like 60 or maybe 70 full blocks. And I'm like, complete fabrication. They just invented that entire memory of all of that stuff. So we're at that point. That's wild. Yeah. But I mean, we're at that phase where there's a bunch of people who like maybe did mine Bitcoin and they're not going to remember either. Right. Just because of phase of life or because they're like, yeah, water under the bridge. It was fun. My ex-husband, a year ago, I did a TikTok video where I was like, how's your day going? My ex-husband found a hard drive that he was convinced had Bitcoin on it, but actually it's just pictures of his dog. So that's cool, you know, because we did like the whole recovery thing and and oh, you can't send it in anywhere. You cannot. That's the thing. Chain of custody, Brooke. I'm just gonna, like, for my audience's benefit, you guys, you cannot lose track of the chain of custody. Right. If it ever gets shipped to a third-party service, the lowest level intern who understands what to look for on your hard drive, the moment that they make a snapshot or copy any of your data, you would never know. Right. And they can sweep your wallet. They can flush you dry of any funds that are found by that group. Right. And so they might send you all the recovered data to you. That's the whole thing. Like, that's why you fly somebody to you and you sit over their shoulder and you watch how this all works. And we're really upfront, just like Seth said, about all the things that that we're going to take, and we're going to explain it all. You still don't have full trust or full, but how else are you going to do it? Like, you either do this or it's gone, but don't send it to a recovery place. Come on. No. Yeah, never. Never. But anyway, that's a huge digression. I just wanted to say, like, we're aging into really weird problems in blockchain and cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So this is one of those really weird problems. We're getting a bunch of people who just like theft, loss, death, acts of God, flooding, etc. Like all these problems that come into their lives, or just faulty memory, because it happens to all of us.
Right.
Do you remember everything that ever happened your entire life from age 5 forward?
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah. Like
vivid memories of like crazy shit, but otherwise, no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. But I mean, for a lot of people, like you're saying, the crazy shit doesn't include like, oh yeah, I've got maybe a few dozen Bitcoins still lying around somewhere.
Right.
A few dozen is enough, like back then it was pocket change, it was chump change.
Right.
It wasn't even considered beer money,
right.
but a few dozen Bitcoin, yeah, left over, like you may forget where you've got that stored away. And I don't, here's visual aid. As far as IT, yeah, I'm a hoarder too. Here's every hard drive that I've just on this side of the IT graveyard. Here's every hard drive that I've ever had.
Down here, I can't reach them, but they're down there. We're literally in my office. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If you're not going to completely magnetize and destroy them, then you better hold on to that stuff.
And this 3 terabyte needs to go to a recovery place because it has pictures. There's no, I know that there's nothing like, like that on there, but
sure.
It's going to cost me probably $2 or $3 grand. And so it just sits until I'm like ready to pay for that, but it just sits here.
Right.
Because I changed out all of this. It still doesn't, spin or anything. So anyway.
So yeah, you've actually got to use, you got to use their machines where they put the platters on their custom read head machine.
Well, and it's in a clean room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, it is like, data recovery, it's weird. Again, we're going to age out of this problem too, because in the future, the SSDs failing in read-only mode, where it's like, oh, yeah, you should be able to recover it.
Right.
But
exactly.
Yeah, it's a weird space. But yeah, as a technologist, let's get back on track here. So you mentioned getting into Bitcoin. You mentioned a little bit of how that onboarding went. And then it sounds like you stepped away from all that. And then you came back to crypto more broadly, right? Capital C crypto, right? Not cryptography. You came back to blockchain, right? And cryptocurrencies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did it look like for you crossing the threshold of like the point of no return where you're like, okay, yeah, I used Bitcoin, but now there's really no version of Brooke J Lacey that lives into the future without crypto. What was that?
I don't think, man, that is a good question, Seth. I think the point of no return for me was that experience. Like once I recognized the 2008 like collapse and all of that, and then my political views changed. And for me, it was an idea. It was a revolution. I've never quite looked at money the same way as other people. It's just energy. It's fugazi. It's yes, it causes stress and all that stuff. So point being, there was a point of no return even after we like lost all that stuff, because I understood the power of it. Did I start buying it up? No, not really. It was kind of, out of sight. I think I got caught up in the corporate. I'm making all this fiat money. I'm getting all this stuff. And it was, but it was never really gone from me. There was like, we had that Bitcoin. It was in the safe. Was it like, oh, I'm going to do this stuff with it? No, I really, truly believe that. And I don't think I'll touch that ever. I think that's going to go to my son and his children. And, half of it goes to my ex. But I just think it's never really gone away. I was doing TikTok videos about blockchain at the very beginning. Like, what was that, 2020? Because I believe in that technology, believe in the, especially like the voting thing. It just blows my mind that we are still voting on paper ballots, and so really it has been a fairly political thing for me because based on blockchain. The currency part of it is like, yeah, and I like the investment type of thing. And, I love money. I love what money does for my life. I love, being able to pay for things like my son's school and, that kind of thing. So monetary, like life is maybe different for me. I'm not going to put it all into crypto. I'm not going to put it all into, I just want to live my life and I want to be happy and I want to like be able to go to have these experiences and be with my people, right? That takes money. And so the crypto part of it, I think one of my biggest TikTok videos was after I did a talk. It was late 2021, summer 2021. I went and I did a talk. I used to do a lot of like mental health kind of motivational type of things. People just like me. And so I'll tell them about, you know, cool stuff. And so I did a talk and at the end talked about crypto. And I had a bunch of women come up at the end and be like, I thought that was like fake. And my boyfriend told me about crypto. And I think my like superpower is making people feel comfortable, especially women, about dumb questions, because so many technologists and smart people make other people feel dumb for not knowing what they know. And that to me is a disservice to the rest of the world. So I did a video saying like, you know, do you all think crypto is fake? Because it's not. And I was literally sitting in my car looking at the camera. This is why people are like, can you help us with TikTok? And I'm like, no, because I sit in my car and look at the camera and have 400,000 views on a video. So good luck to you. But that video did huge because I was like, I'd love to teach more women about crypto because it can be a tool for you down the road if you need to get out of a difficult situation or marriage or whatever.
Totally agreed. Privacy rights, our rights to privacy are women's rights, and our rights to really good information security is a defense against all kinds of atrocities that are committed largely towards women, such as human trafficking. And it sounds weird because it's a two-edged sword, right? You'll hear legislators talk about privacy like, oh, you don't get it. Human traffickers use that sort of stuff. It's like, no, you don't get it. People who are in bad situations, all kinds of people who are in bad situations need that. Whistleblowers in oppressive regimes, people who just need to communicate, journalists who need to communicate privately. But then, day to day, a lot of women who are in abusive relationships or in a really stuck need to be able to store up enough value that they could use it to whatever. Something as simple as just catch a Greyhound bus far enough out of town that they're away from their potential abuser.
Well, and I use the example of like, you know, you squirrel away cash into the, you know, kitchen cookie jar. That's so old of me, but you know, 10 years from now, that's going to be worth substantially less. I can't do the math, you know, but like, cause it just enrages me that like I was able to get out of a relationship. My marriage, it was amicable. There was really no, you know, problems there. However, I was able to decide this isn't working. I have my own money. I have my own businesses. Take my son, you know, and we split. And it was like that. But so many women stay in relationships, whether they're, you know, abusive or just they're over, you know, because they can't leave. And that is a huge problem, in my opinion. But if they had squirreled it away into a private crypto account, maybe had somebody help them, even just by like, here's $100 in Bitcoin from me into this private thing, but it's yours, you know, like maybe their friend and the husband or whomever doesn't know about it, that would have been how much more 10 years from now, or whenever they felt safe leaving, at least enough. At least it wasn't going to be less than what they were swirling away. So
I'm gonna say a controversial take. I think that there are a lot of marriages, like you say, relationships that are like just over. I think a lot of people declare death in relationships way too prematurely also. And that like there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, this is just over. I'm just bored. And it's like, well, isn't that a commentary on you, not the relationship? Like,
absolutely. No, I'm with you on that. And I think the story I told was just a little teeny tiny, like once it was over after 4 years of trying to make it work. I was able to like make the decision to go.
And that makes sense. And we talked about that offline a little bit. I don't want to delve into something that's overly personal, and I didn't mean to come across as like judgy, right?
Right. No.
Just saying, like, I'm still a big fan of, you know, men and women trying to make it work. I mean, God knows that people under 30 are having, like, by the numbers, way less, even just like casual sex, let alone real committed relationships. Right. They are dying in this world. So I'm like, hey, you want a committed relationship? Go you, like, please join the club, try, like put in the effort.
Yes.
But like you're saying, sometimes you can't salvage it, and that's sad.
Right.
But and we've talked about that. I know that like it was not a decision you made lightly.
No.
Let me ask you this: as far as career highlights and milestones that have been a big deal to you since you've been working in crypto, because you now do work in crypto.
Yeah.
What do you consider some of your biggest W's?
Last year, well, first of all, you know, there still are times where I was like, man, I really should have stuck with that, because now 2 years later, I would have had a lot more money. But then I snap out of it like, well, I didn't know, because I'm a really intelligent person. So if I didn't see it then, there was a reason, you know, like there was.
Well, and there's an inverse correlation between being really intelligent, like you are, and sometimes getting mad gains, because you're like, yeah, I don't see the viability. Like you're able to visually you're able to project certain things and extrapolate in a way that very few others are.
Right.
And so you're trying to switch focus onto the next problem to solve.
Right.
That doesn't lend itself to having like super long lasting relationships on building teams. It's kind of messed up, right? Like you're intelligent enough to know, like, I can solve bigger problems. And so you move on to other problems.
Thought about it.
And it's kind of messed up, but I've seen it too many times, especially in crypto and blockchain. I think some of the best and the brightest, like yourself, who are attracted to it, and who then kind of get like, all right, well, I did that one thing. So unless you have like a big old allocation from that team, or like whatever, you're on a vesting schedule with that team, it's like, it's hard to keep exposure to certain things, because you're still like, you're grinding after the next problem to solve.
Yeah.
So,
and wow, I haven't thought about it like that. You may have said it to me at one point, but then I'm just old. Like, it goes through one ear and out the other. But it's bringing up that, like, wow, that's a self-reflection discovery, because for so long I was just able to make money, right? Like corporate paychecks, even in like the bartending world in the early 2000s, when I was kind of like just trying to figure out what I was going to do. I made tons of money, like running at one of the biggest clubs in Chicago. So it was like, yeah, of course we were making tons of money. And so I never really like had this sort of issue where I had to think about that vesting, like, okay, this is a new project and I don't really know where it's going, but like, I'm a service provider. That's what essentially what technologists are. We're service providers. We're tech support, whatever. Even my business has been service providing. It hasn't been, oh, I want to like get into this and like see money grow and all of that, which is a mistake. Maybe I'm learning that now, but wow.
Well, so I've got a brother who's a full stack developer and has done work in the startup scene. Another one who's now, I think I can just say it openly. He's a full stack developer for Amazon. One of their AWS teams. Yeah. I think he's actually on the S3 team. Right. That might be one of the teams that he's on, and security for the S3 team. Yeah. But and so that's just publicly known if you look up his name or whatever. But another brother who did a lot of the tech startups, right? Where it was like, okay, jump onto a new team, working for, decent salary, but also equity. Right. And it's kind of similar risk, right? Where it's like, okay, is this stock going to do anything for me 3 years from now? And can I stay on your team long enough? Because you're going to push as hard as you can to get me to sign a contract that keeps me working for you for 5 years to qualify for any of that. Yeah. So like, I have to go build your dream and realize your vision, execute your vision. Right. And I'm kind of at the mercy of this team to deliver on their end, doing business development and making sure that people in marketing, making sure people actually come and use the product. Yep. And I think similar thing with where you're positioned in crypto is that you will occasionally get these groups that are trying to fashion themselves after tech startups. Right. And if they could, they'd try to keep you on board, even just as a passive advisor for as long as possible, and give you really restrictive vesting terms on what they're going to allocate to you. So it can be really hard if you're not like above the line, like a C-level executive in one of these groups, or day one advisor, or the project doesn't. So that was the first thing that I worked on. It was 2021. I had this huge presence on the audio app Clubhouse, and for a lot of different stuff. Most of it was I was there sort of teaching people about TikTok, because there was a lot of like
Clubhouse rooms talking about other social media, like how to grow your social media, which I always look at as like very like Inception. I used to say meta because that was like, you know, the information within the information. Like we're talking about Clubhouse rooms on Clubhouse, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, let's reclaim that word, by the way, because I don't respect Facebook for trying to steal it.
No, I love that word. It's very Inception. So when I say Inception, people are like, what? Like, you know, the movie with like the dreams within the dream, blah, 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 and people are like, what? Anyway, so you'd be on these Clubhouse rooms, and that's how I got a couple of, you know, consulting gigs. And one of them was for an Algorand marketplace. It is still up. It's called OG2D. And it started with I won't bring up any names, but because I don't think they're on there, but a musician, a very famous musician, had all of this old memorabilia, and like a musician from a long time ago in a group, and have all this memorabilia. And we thought, oh, we're going to do the physical to digital thing, and we're going to sell these NFT. We had no idea what we were doing, and we thought Algorand's the one to do it on. Not a great idea. Granted, Algorand's great, you know, the technology, and it worked. And, you know, it worked. It was the rest of it. So again, service provider, I provided the devs. I did a little bit of the dev work. I'm not an expert at it at all, but I did it kind of like with somebody else. And then the marketing went to shit. I, you know, made the payment for the service, and then we went on our merry way. There wasn't really like this, you know, push to make this thing happen. And we all know that the physical to digital still doesn't work. Or at least it's, you know, anyway, it's in its infancy.
It's fraught with peril. If you're trying to build in that space, like it's a huge opportunity for you, right? If you crack that nut, like you're gonna kill it, right? If you earn $1, you're gonna earn $1 billion, right? Like probably.
Right. So off of that, like, you know, learning, I'm big on like, you know, learning from failures or perceived failures. I thought it was a huge success because the technology worked. But in 2022, I was contacted. I think I met these people through Twitter, and they actually knew me from different social media, and a very large movie theater company called Megaplex. I can give all these names because it was a great project. Megaplex is in a certain area of the country that their parent company had sold off some assets, some businesses or whatever, and had all this these resources. And the CEO is very all in on crypto. And so how lovely for me. And I would have some conversations with their CTO, one of them. And, you know, we had a business relationship there. And then all of a sudden he's like, all right, we're going to do this project. And so it started in May 2022. And I came on as their advisor, really their DevRel. So I brought in a Solidity dev, a Python dev, and that's kind of what the consulting was for me. Like I wasn't going to do all the work. It was too big of a project. But what the biggest success for us was, this was a already established loyalty program, but not like a Starbucks or whatever. This was like, you know, I
think I saw this one. Now that you bring it up, I think it rings a bell. I had to do with popcorn, right?
Yes.
Popcorn.
Yes. Yeah. So there was,
I know your work.
Piece, and we built a shipping program that was automated. It was an NFT. There was no credit card option. It was all Ethereum. And then we worked with Warner Brothers, who gave us, it was all perks. So it was already this loyalty program, and we tokenized it. But it was a already massive group of people who were interested in the movie. You know, and you know, these movie people, like they'll go to coffee meetups and talk about the next movie. I mean, I love movies. So I can imagine the next level up of these people that are like, they love it. This is a community. They go to the theater, they get popcorn together. They like go see different, you know, independent films, all of that stuff. They're like, oh, now we get this extra stuff. So it was about perk tokenizing this loyalty program. And it was a massive success.
Nice.
Warner Brothers partnered, gave them early access to Black Adam. There was a whole red carpet situation. So
that's
for
cool.
me, it's not about the NFT project. It's about the tokenization of.
Okay, so sorry for the interruption here, but now I know you went to the highest of stakes screener, right? Because there's this movie, right? That's about a controversial figure in the crypto industry, right?
Yeah.
And you were invited to go to one of these screeners that's kind of limited with Regal. I'm sure that you went to that whole experience like, I could have done it better. I could have rolled this out better, knowing that you worked on that rewards program.
100%. That many people that are part of that community, 1,000%. That
man,
night, I kept thinking, can we go back, because I kind of want to see it again to like really absorb, because I'm trying to write my reaction to it. But it was just the one night, and it was only here because one of the biggest like Hexicans, whatever, lives here. I had no idea. And and then another streamer, like his family lives here, I guess. So that was the only reason I even had the opportunity to see it. It was like, who's bringing it to Boise, Idaho, is where I live.
Don't sleep on Boise. It's like sleeping on Montana. There's a great tech school in Montana, or Wisconsin, right? Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, got a lot of brain power in some of these air quotes flyover states. Don't sleep on them.
Well, and Boise's one of the fastest growing. Like there's literally construction going on for blocks down my streets, because I'm kind of like in a more sort of city section. It's not really city section. Being from Chicago, like it's just Boise, but there's just the infrastructure can't keep up. People are leaving California in droves, moving here. It's literally the most
can you blame them? Can you blame them? Seriously, California is our United States equivalent of a shithole country, right? To use, like
I love
why?
It there,
why would you pay them taxes?
People that I am, that's like some family friends there, but I've thought about, I really need a location there because there's just more going on. But if I ever did that, it would be half and half. I would live half the month here and half the month there, just because of the like people there. But living there and like I would keep my residence here for sure. Yeah, you
wouldn't be alone. There are plenty of people in Hollywood who have who live most of their schedule in like the Intermountain West, specifically Montana, Wyoming, Idaho. A lot of Hollywood insiders, right? Harrison Ford, big name, who spends a lot of his time out there.
Yep.
You've also got Kevin Costner, spends a lot of his time out there. In fact, so is it Harrison Ford or I'm trying to remember which one it was, who has they've got their pilot's license and they fly helicopter, which is a little more technical, right?
Yeah.
And they live there not far from the from the Grand Tetons.
Yeah.
And they like that side of Idaho. And everyone just kind of knows, like, oh yeah, we got these Hollywood A-listers, these aging Hollywood A-listers who basically hate California and they want to come hang with us because life is more real here.
Right. Sun Valley, Idaho, about an hour and a half. By the way, like Idaho is the best kept secret, meaning like the travel, there's more hot springs in the state of Idaho than there is in the entire United States. I can be off grid in 30 minutes, literally. There's times where I drive up to, it's a place called New Meadows, right by McCall, Idaho, where there's no service. And I get a little Airbnb. Nice. I get chills because like for somebody like me, it's so important to do that. Literally no service. I cannot use my phone. I turn it off. I go paddle boarding in the McCall. There's, giant lake there. It is truly the most magical place. I don't know of any other place that I can be off grid in 30 minutes. And I live in the biggest, town in Idaho, actually a little bit outside of Boise. So don't come looking for me. Or do. I live in a Second Amendment state. So come on.
Yeah, no. Yeah. No, it's what is it? Constitutional carry state that's protected from for residents who are visiting. I know because I've definitely exercised that privilege when I'm there. That right. So I'm
open carry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. But here's the constitutional carry means you can seal without a permit from anywhere. And it's
that's
I don't know, man.
The open
people are very polite.
Yeah,
people are very polite in Idaho for a reason. So yeah.
How did we get on that? Sorry. Like you and I knew this was gonna happen. We just talk about so many things. And for your viewers, we do have a little side project we're thinking about doing a podcast. So give us a thumbs up. I know. I had to do it because it keeps
of course
on track because I really like have all this other stuff going on, but I really feel like it would be an important piece to bring our knowledge and our conversational style to the world. And I really believe that would change some lives, to be honest, because privacy and paranoia and all that stuff, I think is so important, especially for people who are like, they can have my information. Absolutely not. Like, just because you live, a quiet life in, Meridian, Idaho, wherever you live, doesn't mean that you shouldn't take these things seriously.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And beyond that, the couple other P words that are worth mentioning is practicality and pragmatism, right? Like, how do you live day to day while maintaining that level of paranoia and privacy?
Yes.
How do you get along in a world where fiat is a reality too? So you need on ramps and off ramps.
Yes.
How do you manage all of that? There's a lot of balance that people need. And I'm right there with you, Brooke. That's why we talked about doing the potential podcast together. So I'm excited about that. We've got, we've already got topic lists for days. So we've got, So Mind Your Biz community. First off, if you're not already following Brooke over on Twitter, you can see a link to her Twitter profile down in the description. And of course on TikTok, her stuff is fire over there. She does really hilarious content that actually is pretty thought-provoking with some of them, right? So that's the whole thing, right? Like,
laugh reacts, and there's 15 million video views on the hashtag Brooks Laugh. Like, what is my life? Like, what is that? I don't know, but it's funny. And I think that's how you get people, at least for me, people ask, what's the secret? People trust me because I make them laugh and I'm authentic, and then I can hit them with the smart stuff. And does that do well? I don't know. I'm not trying to sell anything, but
beyond that, you can't ever sell people what they actually need. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating as a marketer, right? Because you, or as an educator, right, is that you can't sell people what they need. You can only sell them what they want. So if you ever veer from telling people slice of life stuff that they need to know, right. And privacy and paranoia stuff that they need to know, you ever decided to sell out, I think you'll find that does really well when you sell people shiny stuff that's really not good for them, the junk food of technology, so to speak.
Right. That's true. You're saying if I start to do the tricky paranoia stuff,
NordVPN. I'm saying sell out. Just direct them towards NordVPN, using Bitcoin on layer 1, reusing their wallet addresses. Don't worry about it. ENS is a good idea. So go dox your main Ethereum account.
That's true.
Unfortunately, people love that. They eat that stuff up and they pay for it. Why?
Well, and now there's these cool things on TikTok that I just saw. I didn't realize it's probably been there a while, but I've kind of been more on Twitter lately. But there's these things called series, and you can do these series and charge $5, and then people can go, and it's very specific content. And I was like, oh, I'll try that too. People have always said I do other YouTube interviews like this. People are like, oh, I would pay for a course. And I'm like, I don't know how to create a course. That's the whole thing that I realized a couple of months ago when people were companies were coming to me can you do content for us? And I'm like, I guess so.
Jeez.
I never really did any of that stuff. And so I'm just people want to learn from me. How does that happen? Because I'm a tech consultant. I go in and teach large companies. I bring in technologists. That I'm not a content creator by trade. So that's been a weird sort of transition for me, is to be paid for doing this kind of stuff. I don't know.
We'll talk more about that offline also. But I think to finish up this interview for the Mind Your Biz channel, let me ask, as far as big upcoming dates, things you're excited about, or just places that you think people should go. I guess maybe I'll distill the question in this way. Is there a website or some place on the internet that is promoting something you're excited about? Where should people go? And what do you want them to do when they get there?
So BrookeJLacey.com. So that's my brand. Brooke J Lacey is an LLC, by the way. That's another topic. But BrookeJLacey.com has links to all my social media. There is a conference coming up called Rare Evo, which is in 2 weeks, but you can still get there. It's in Denver. That's going to be really cool. I'm doing an entire workshop on cybersecurity. I'm doing some panels. I'm doing some funny stuff. The great thing about Rare Evo, which I love, is that they're letting me just kind of do whatever. It's not just, oh, can you sit on this panel and talk about stuff? But doing a workshop, doing some funny stuff. There may be a little bit of a like between two ferns kind of thing. If you've never seen that, please go look. It's hilarious. I'm going to be interviewing Charles Hoskinson. It's just going to be very, very cool. And really just hanging out with me is a big deal. Seth, are you going to be there, Seth?
So I'm not confirmed to speak yet. I did talk to the organizers and they said that they might have me on panels, but I'm not confirmed. I was a little late because I was focused on helping to staff other events for creators like yourself that are later on in this quarter.
Yeah.
But it looks like right now I'm probably gonna go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, of course, because we all hang out at the same time. But yeah, brookejlacey.com. And I'm gonna just make sure that that there's a couple of ways to learn from me on there, because apparently people want to. So I'm going to, tell some stories, but I'm also going to teach as much as possible. So there's going to be a very clear place to go for you to, for you guys to like learn from me, because I think it's important.
Okay. Well, there you go. brookejlacey.com. I think probably after we're done with this broadcast, I'm going to get Brooke to set up a UTM code that shows tracking from my channel. Yep. Maybe.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a joke. Click the link down in the description. It's right there. It's one click away. So obviously it's the easiest thing in the world for you to do. You know what's not easy for you to do? Know what Brooke knows. So go and check out her stuff. So appreciate you being on the channel, Brooke. Really, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a long time coming, and I'm looking forward to this being, the first of many joint content pieces that we do together. So
I love it. Yes, please.
Yeah. So appreciate you again, and gonna roll the outro.
And thank you to your audience.
Yeah, nope, my pleasure. My name is Audience. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you in the next one.